So let's begin with the online 114th Foundation Day celebrations of IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry. On behalf of the IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all our participants, dignitaries, especially our esteemed guest, Dr. Jitendra Singh, Honorable Union Minister of State for Development of Northeastern Region IC and Minister of State for Prime Minister's Office Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions, Department of Atomic Energy and Department of Space for sparing his highly valuable time for our members. As we begin this interesting session, may I request Sri Rajiv Poddar, President IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to deliver the welcome address. Over to you, Rajiv ji.
Thank you. On behalf of IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry and my own, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to the 114th Foundation Day celebrations of the IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, formerly known as Indian Merchant Chamber. I am deeply indebted to Dr. Jitendra Singh ji, Honorable Union Minister of State for Development of Northeastern Region and Minister of State for Prime Minister's Office, Personnel, Public Grievances and Pension, Department of Atomic Energy and Department of Space for kindly accepting our invitation to grace the Foundation Day celebration as the chief guest despite his hectic schedule. Sir, we are truly honored by your presence. I also acknowledge with thanks the presence of governors, past presidents of chamber, dignitaries and distinguished members. Thank you all for joining. Sir, although IMC is known to you and you have honored us in the past, I would like to give a brief introduction on IMC. IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry has a rich legacy of 113 years of existence. It was founded on September 7, 1907 by few Indian merchants who came together to establish a Swadeshi institution to fight for the rights of the Swadeshi businesses. The Chamber exclusively serves the interests of Indian business community and also took part in several political movements. In recognition of the Chamber's contribution to nation building, Mahatma Gandhi accepted honorary membership in 1931. IMC is the only chamber where Gandhiji was a member, which is truly an honor for the chamber and an immensely proud legacy. At its 100th year, a postal stamp was issued by the Government of India recognizing the services of the chamber. Over the years, a galaxy of leaders, both Indian and international, including presidents and prime ministers, have adorned the chamber by their visits. The foundation stone of the chamber's building in Churchgate and Mumbai was laid by none other than the first Home Minister of India, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. The Foundation Day celebrations provide us with an opportunity to introspect, look back with satisfaction, and look ahead with confidence. We believe in what Mahatma Gandhi said, the future depends on what we do today. The theme of IMC this year is Reboot, Reform, Research. Reboot the business, reform the policies, and research the economy. The Chamber's activities also revolve around this theme. In the past, in this time of economic crisis, we believe that the private sector should increasingly engage with the government in the center and state to build capacities and systems which are resilient for future shocks. Towards this, IMC will focus on engaging with the Government of India and the Government of Maharashtra and endeavor to contribute and complement their efforts to creating a sustainable economic development. Our Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji gave a clarion call of Atmanirbhar Bharat on 12th May this year with a vision to make India self-reliant. Atmanirbhar Bharat is a vision of not only to make for India, but also to make for the world. In our opinion, Atmanirbhar Bharat is about decentralization localism that takes pride in local brands, emphasizes resilience and flexibility, and encourages local capacity building and indigenization. Keeping this spirit in mind, the policy rightly identifies 5 phases of business, including MSMEs, poor including migrant and farmers, agriculture, new horizons of growth, government reforms and enablers. Each of these phases have received unprecedented policy support, not just to tide the current wave of cyclical economic slowdown, but also path-breaking decisions to unshackle the existing barriers so as to allow market forces to take charge. I would like to assure you, Honorable Minister, that IMC will do its best to support the vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat by playing a vital bridge between the government and the businesses. Once again, sir, I would like to convey our sincere thanks to you in restoring this favor by being with us today at the chamber. So, Honorable Minister, I would like to request you to please begin our 114th day celebration with a cake cutting ceremony. I am really grateful that you have kindly consented to do this. Thank you so much. I'm not sure whether the cake has reached you.
No, just a moment. It's reaching because the cake is not virtual. It is real.
Yes, sir, they are in your waiting room, so they must be coming. I mean,
Yeah, because I thought it would be virtual thing, because these days, cake cutting and all the ceremony weddings are taking place virtually.
we have kept
But,
the cake here also, sir.
No, but I appreciate that it's not virtual. At least we can have a piece later on.
Yes, sir.
But I would
We
request
are really grateful you consented, sir. Really
but a
grateful.
number of microphones are on, so there's a lot of echo going on. So only those of us who are speaking should unmute themselves, otherwise we won't be able to actually listen clearly.
We are very grateful sir, for consenting. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Cake is just arriving in a moment. इतना देर नहीं ना करना वो कहीं उधर जा रहे हैं क्या लाने में क्या दिक्कत है यार
सर वो आप हम भी खड़े हुए
So many happy returns to the 140 Foundation Day of the Indian Merchant Chamber.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Sanjay. Thank you.
We will submit after the session and make sure that it is really reward.
Thank you. With this, sir, thank you very, very much. May I request you to kindly give your address, sir? We are all really looking forward to hearing you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rajiv Kondar. Good evening, all the distinguished members of the Indian Merchant Chamber, and all those who have joined this webinar this evening. There's still some echo happening. If I could just request all of us to mute ourselves. At the outset, I have to perform this pleasant task of formally congratulating you, complimenting you on the celebration of the 114th Foundation Day of the Indian Merchant Chamber, because the Indian Merchant Chamber has grown with the history of India, so it's part of India's history. So it has carries value which is much, much more, many times more than that of any chamber. So as was being rightly mentioned by Rajiv, he dated back the history beginning from 1907. So that itself speaks that when we celebrate the anniversary of the Indian Merchant Chamber, we are actually celebrating one of the eventful occasions in the history of pre and post independence India. And as was being mentioned by Rajiv, I have had the opportunity of sharing a very pleasant relationship with the IMC for the last several years. I also had the privilege of visiting your headquarters, meeting all your distinguished members, and as was being mentioned, Indian Merchant Chamber carries a legacy, and as he was saying, is possibly the only chamber which could manage to get Mahatma Gandhi enrolled as a member. I wonder if he would have ever accepted an invitation afterwards from any other chamber. But that was the right time, and he had just come over to India and he accepted the honorary membership. But that itself becomes a part of the history. So that is also a distinct feature of this chamber. I also have to compliment the governing body for having chosen this subject, the Atmanirbhar Bharat, the vision for India's economy. It's both timely as well as topical, and I think no other organization could have thought of holding it and could have been more entitled to hold it than the Indian Merchant Chamber, because this chamber, of all the chambers, has a legacy, it has a glorious past, and it has also is looked upon to contribute significantly in the future times. So you have a legacy and a tradition from the past, and you have a responsibility for the future. And therefore, in the corona times like this, I think this would have been, and this is certainly the best and the most credible platform to engage in a discussion on this subject. As all of us know, we are actually going through testing times, difficult times, trying times. And you can see the mask around me, because that is also symbolic of the fact that we carry a mask wherever we go, even if it's not required sitting in a room all alone. But the moment you step out of the door, you are expected to wear it. So it has to be carried handy. And that is how we are meeting this evening, meeting virtually. But at the same time, I think we have also learned to make a virtue out of the adversity, the manner in which we have remained connected over the last 3-4 months. And as I said, the Indian Merchant Chamber has a role to play in post-COVID economy. And when through Atmanirbhar Bharat, Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaks of self-reliant India, I think self-reliant India is crucial to post-COVID economy. And to that extent, the role of Indian Merchant Chamber will become crucial to the making of self-reliant India in the post-COVID economic scenario. Also because not only confining its role or limiting its role to merely promoting the business community, the trade community, as is expected of any chamber, it has actually exceeded its mandate to engage itself in charitable activities, also in activities of nation building. I have myself been personally testimony to that, because in 2014, when there was a huge flood that happened all over North India, it was the Indian Merchant Chamber which came forward to make significant contribution to the reconstruction of the devastated hutments, and several other assistance provided, including in my own Lok Sabha constituency besides other places. So we have seen an Indian Merchant Chamber has lived up to the call of nation whenever it's been asked to. And therefore, to that extent, I can very confidently say that India in the post-COVID scenario will be faced with twin situations: A, the challenge, and B, the opportunity. So out of the challenge will come the opportunity. And to live up to both the challenge as well as the opportunity, I think a significant contribution would be expected from the IMC and the other like-minded bodies. As all of us know, the entire world is struggling with this catastrophe of COVID, but it was India, particularly, I have hesitation to say, the far-sighted vision of Prime Minister Modi. He declared an early lockdown. A number of questions were raised, continue to be raised even today. But if we look at the other side of it and try to imagine when most of the European countries, the smaller populations, are grappling with this problem, if we had at the onset itself had to face the assault of it, then God only, one shudders to think what would have been the fate of 135 crore population of a heterogeneous nation spread all over northwest, southeast, and northeast. So I think a lot of preemptive measures taken by the Indian leadership have actually, to an extent, at least relatively, helped us to contain this challenge and also to get ourselves trained to this challenge, because for a heterogeneous nation like India, we were absolutely unfamiliar with the nuances of a face mask. We like to make up our faces instead of hiding our faces, unless we are up to some kind of a criminal activity because that's how the movies of the 50s and 60s showed. Anybody who had covered his face was expected to be a villain in the movie. So we were not used to this kind of a culture. Social distancing was hardly known to us because we love to embrace each other and greet each other. And therefore, I think this early lockdown declared by Prime Minister Modi helped us train us for the future norms. Because, of course, the lockdown cannot carry on indefinitely, but it helped us to realize what it was all about and what was its significance. And to that extent, I said we have possibly fared better than other countries. There was also a huge amount of sensitivity in the various organs of the government. And let's not forget when the movement began after lockdown 1 and lockdown 2, and there were certain mishaps. Some of the standard people in haste started traveling back to their villages, to their homes, obviously, because that's a very, very instinctive desire on the part of any human being. And some of them even started walking down in hot sun and met with certain unfortunate consequences. Prime Minister went public to apologize for that, and that itself is a reflection of the kind of sensitivity combined with foresight with which this government has tried to deal with this entire scenario. And this Atmanirbhar package announced by the Prime Minister, as was being referred to by Rajiv, is also to a great extent a reflection of the same sensitivity. It is, on the one hand, and we say is to lend assistance to the economic structure and those engaged in the economic activity, and at the same time come to the rescue of those who are in distress. Without going on and on, because in webinar you have the limitation of time because you don't know when the audience has gone to sleep when you keep talking, because all the other mics are mute, so you can't see what's happening. I would just dwell on some of the features which have been under discussion. For example, what is the definition of Atmanirbhar Bharat? Because this phrase itself has been a subject of discussion on occasions, and sometimes there is also confusion about what Atmanirbhar Bharat is actually meant to be when Prime Minister Narendra Modi gives a call for this. I'll come to that in a few moments, but before that, just to keep the record straight, a few statistics and figures, because these days, if you talk without statistics, without figures, however reliable they are or not, you are not taken seriously. So, as Rajiv himself mentioned, it was on the 12th of May 2020 the Prime Minister spoke to the nation and announced the Atmanirbhar package. And later on, for 5 days, from May 13 to May 17, the Finance Minister of India gave a series of press briefings where she described each of these aspects. So this call for Atmanirbhar Bharat is, in other words, if you literally translate it to English, the expression would be self-reliant India movement. And that is to a great extent what it means to be self-reliant India and a movement to achieve that. And the 5 pillars of Atmanirbhar Bharat, which were spelled out in that package, are A, the economy, B, the infrastructure system, C, vibrant democracy, and a demand. So self-reliance, second economy, third infrastructure system, fourth vibrant democracy, and five demand. So these combined together with cumulatively comprise of what is being described as Atmanirbhar Bharat and the movement for that in the form of Atmanirbhar Abhiyan. What is also significant, because being a political functionary, I can't help pointing out that, is that this was a kind of a package which was announced by a prime minister quite out of box, because it was not a Hmm? So let's not forget that on the same day, that is the 12th of May, when Prime Minister made this announcement and unfolded this package on the evening of that day, the same day morning, there was a press briefing by the premier or the principal opposition party, the Congress party, and one of their top leaders said that it would be great if the Prime Minister could gather courage of announcing a package at least up to 4% or so of the GDP. At the same evening, the Prime Minister of India had declared or announced a package amounting to almost 10% of the GDP. So that itself would go on to say, because this was a package not with any party or political consideration, but for the nation facing an unusual, unprecedented situation. And therefore, this was the quantum of the package, which was expected to cater to various sections, including the cottage industry, the MSMEs, the laborers, the middle class, the industry, among others, and which also included bold reforms across sectors which would drive the country's push towards self-reliance. And Prime Minister also summed up by giving a call for local products, by urging us to be vocal for local. So that acronym itself spells up all that a self-reliant or Atmanirbhar Bharat would be. The definition of which I said I would come a few moments later, but let's go through briefly the ingredients of it. The 20 lakh package announced on the 12th of May, the 5 pillars I have already reiterated, which include the self-reliant India, economy, infrastructure, vibrant democracy, and demand. Provided global tenders, and the important features of that the global tenders were disallowed in the government procurement tenders up to rupees 200 crores. So this was a kind of a relief, huge relief coming to the local MSMEs, Rule 161(4) of the General Financial Rules was also amended to achieve this purpose, and no global tender inquiry for tenders up to rupees 200 crore was to be done unless the prior approval was obtained from the Cabinet Secretariat. So that was a kind of a relief sought to be given by medium and small scale industry. As far as the contractors are concerned, the relief available to them in the form of the ruling that all central agencies like the railways, the highway authorities, and the CPWD will be given an extension of up to 6 months for completion of their contractual obligations. Instructions were issued for extension of contract period by 3 to 6 months without penalties. The timelines were extended, and instructions were also issued to return performance security to contractors or suppliers in proportion of the supplies made without any liability. As far as the government was concerned, the state governments were also given a helping hand. The borrowing limit of the states was increased from 3 to 5% for the year 2021. Let's not forget, it was this government which had already increased, right, in the beginning in 2014, itself the state share of the exchequer to nearly 40% or so, because of Prime Minister Modi having himself been a chief minister for nearly 1.5 decades and having faced the constraints of a hostile center, had gone through all that, and therefore I think that was also in keeping with the spirit of cooperative federalism. Additional borrowing of 2% of the projected JSDP approved for the states for 2021. So that was also a specific state-related reform. The other, as far as the business community was concerned, the MSME, the 3 lakh crore collateral-free automatic loan for businesses, including MSME, with the additional working capital finance of 20% of outstanding credit as on the 29th of February 2020 in the form of term loan, and to be available to units with up to 25 crore outstanding and turnover of up to 100 crore. No guarantee or collateral to be required from them, and 100% guarantee by government to provide liquidity of up to rupees 3 lakh crore to over 45 lakh MSMEs. That was the number of the MSMEs that are going to be benefited. Similarly, 3 lakh crore collateral-free automatic loans for businesses, including MSE. The operation guidelines were also amended. I'm not going into the detail of that. And so far, as far as the public sector banks are concerned, they have already cumulatively disbursed more than 38,000 crore, and the private sector banks more than 61,000 crore. The partial credit guarantee for NBFCs up to rupees 45,000 crore. And this partial guarantee was approved by the Cabinet on the 20th of May 2020. And the non-banking financial companies were the yes. Similarly, the Government of India is to provide 20% first loan sovereign guarantee to public sector banks, as far as the banking sector is concerned, and the banks approved purchase of portfolio of rupees 14,000 crore. Now, as far as the farming community is concerned, rupees 30,000 crore of additional emergency working capital funding for farmers through NABARD. I'm not going into the detail of that. And rupees 50,000 crore liquidity through TDS and TCS, the tax deducted at source and tax collected at source, now which is going to be a huge relief for all sections, the different sections. The reduction in TDS announced on the 13th and applicable for specified payments to residents and specified TCS rates by 25% for transactions made from 14th May to 31st of March 2020. Now, other direct measures which could be of a little more interest for the participants this evening is that the Central Board of Direct Taxes issued refunds in more than 20.44 lakh cases amounting to more than rupees 62.361 crore, and due date for income tax returns, as all of us know by now, for 1920 was extended up to 30th November 2020, and the due date for tax audit also extended up to 31st of October 2020. Other direct tax measures included time barring date for assessments getting barred by limitation extended to 31st March 2020 and making payments. And this is important. The Vivad Se Vishwas, which was the brainchild of Prime Minister Modi, the making payment without additional amount, that scheme also stands extended up to 31st of December so that those could not take the benefit of it because of the lockdown and the other COVID-related constraints could not be deprived of this benefit. And the compliance dates under Vivad Se Vishwas Act also extended up to 31st. For further enhancement of ease of doing business through IBC-related measures, the threshold of default under Section B of IBC 2016 raised to rupees 1 crore from existing of rupees 1 lakh. And this is a huge relief, or shall I say concession, in the circumstances for the insolvency and bank corruption code. Special insolvency resolution under Section 240A of the code was provided to provide relief, and Section 10A was inserted to temporarily suspend CIRP for a period of 6 months. So these are some of the statistical immediate measures which were taken. In addition, now as far as the vision and the definition, as I said, I would come a little later. The very name Atmanirbhar Bharat means that maybe we could reduce the import of goods by utilizing more of what is available locally and trying to produce what could be produced locally. In other words, import only when it is absolutely essential. So if we have products which could be produced here, and also finished products, like for example, this COVID period also gave us an opportunity to realize some of the potentials available amidst us, which were either not being fully utilized or which had not caught our attention, because as the English saying goes, the eye see what the mind knows. We had a huge reserve of bamboo amongst us. Bamboo was going out, but the finished product of bamboo was coming from outside. So we had about 5,000 to 6,000 crore of bamboo business happening every year, with the entire agarbattis and the matchsticks being imported from Korea and China. So government has tried to facilitate. I'm just giving an instance of the bamboo sector. For example, the import duty on bamboo, finished bamboo product, has been raised to about 25% to encourage the production of the produce locally. And the 100-year-old Indian Forest Act, which was just about 12 years younger than the Indian Merchant Chamber, because Indian Merchant Chamber was born in 1907 and Indian Forest Act came in 1919, which is a legacy of British, was amended for the first time by this government to exempt homegrown bamboo, because in places like Northeast you have plenty of bamboo at your backyard and in your living premises. So that could serve as a source of livelihood as well as the local products. So that kind of innovative thinking to explore what we could produce locally to reduce import, and also not confine ourselves only to assembling like we do possibly in a case of, for example, computers, or maybe automobile. We have ever increasing number of computer companies, but most of the nut goods are from outside. So we could also produce those small ingredients and components domestically. So in other words, Atmanirbhar concept is a much higher goal than it actually appears to be. And very, very important, I might repeat again, is the point that there is no conflict with modernity, no conflict with growth, no conflict with advancement. That does not mean that there is something advancement happening outside India. We would deprive ourselves simply for the illusion of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Rather, we would raise ourselves to a level where we could actually produce it locally. So if there is, it is not denial of something which would possibly lead to our growth and development. It is only a stimulus to also achieve the capability of producing the same domestically. So, in other words, the Atmanirbhar Bharat should not be seen as an antagonist of modernity or of advancement. It is rather self-reliance in advancement without having to depend on any external factors, powers, or nations. And therefore, the sense would be promote and encourage self-reliance at ground level, not only at the top, local products, and the pride in local product, which I cited the example of bamboo, which is one instance. But at the same time, there is no war or no battle with modernity. It is no issue of indigenous versus non-indigenous, because we have to keep going. So we cannot live in a state of depreciation or disallow ourselves from making the optimum utility of what the world is being made available with. Now, how best we achieve it would be, I think, in the times to come, we would also be innovating on that. One of these suggestions that has come is that we could have a kind of an ISO marking on each of the products, like which could, demonstrate how much of the ingredient is domestic, how much is outside. So, which could also give a true introduction of the composition, the profile of the product. At the same time, also encourage us or inspire us to make it 100% domestic if it is not so. So that kind of marking, this is just a cue for thought which is floating around these days. And carrying forward this mission, because Prime Minister spoke about it for the first time on 12th May, but this is an ongoing process. And I think the evidence of that came on the 15th of August, when from the ramparts of Red Fort in his Independence Day address, Prime Minister unfolded or rolled out the National Digital Health Mission. The National Digital Health Mission is also, in a way, a step forward towards self-reliance, because this corona pandemic taught us how much of resilience was there beneath the surface. When we were confronted with corona, we were hard pressed with the availability of those PPE kits, the personal equipment, with the availability of sanitizer, with the availability of masks. But overnight, that also speaks of the huge capacity and resilience of our healthcare structure and the other social structures. Overnight, our healthcare system could rise to the occasion and equip itself. And then we reached, within a few weeks, a stage where we were actually exporting the PPE kits and also exporting some of the drugs. Not only the indigenous and the Ayurvedic or the Ayush drugs, but even the allopathic drugs. So we have the capacity, but we were challenged with an adversity to make a virtue out of it. And that we realized that the National Digital Health Mission would also a way forward to ensure a harmonious and an integrated self-reliance of the nation. So to conclude, I would say in a nutshell, there are 3 or 4 points which would sum up this Atmanirbhar Bharat concept. A, the care and concern for distressed, so that every Indian feels that he is self-reliant. And self-reliant with self-esteem, with a sense of esteem. Because the sense of esteem is lacking, the self-reliance would be incomplete. And if the esteem is there, the urge for self-reliance will continue. And it has to go to the last man in the last queue. And that I said in the beginning, this is also a sensitive reflection of the concern for the distress. Second, the use of local commodities wherever available. Third, in our own units, why only confine to assembling, and why not going also to manufacture the smallest nuts and bolts. But at the same time, I am repeating it time and again. And before I conclude, I again do so, because that is something which created some amount of misgiving in certain quarters. There is no conflict with non-indigenous products. We are not calling for boycott of non-indigenous products. We have to grow to be self-realized progressively, peacefully, prosperously. So this is based, as far as I understand, on 3 P's: progressiveness, peaceful advancement, and prosperous growth. So that we could be self-reliant without having to deprive ourselves of anything which is available to others and not available to us. Thank you very much. Gentlemen and gentle ladies. Okay.
Thank you very, very much, sir. Can we take some questions or you're short of time? Or
Yeah, Rajiv, I hope the questions would be in keeping with the joy and spirit of the 114th Foundation Day.
yes, yes, sir. Thank you, first of all, very much for your insightful talks, sir. Very grateful you're with us. And I can assure you on behalf of IMC that IMC will be always in the forefront, whether it's the nation's call, even in the pandemic, we have supported and contributed to the PM Care Fund and also the season fund in Maharashtra. Also, we have taken the responsibility as you have given us post-COVID, and we'll work towards this and continue to seek your guidance. So with this, we can take a couple of questions. I do realize you have to go at 5 o'clock. We'll finish much before that. Selby, can you help me because I can't see who's asking the question. So
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
please be brief and kindly finish before 5. Thank you.
Yes. Keep your questions precise. Okay. Yeah. Who would like to ask a question? Hello. Can you raise your hands?
Can I come in, MK Chauhan?
Yes, Mr. Chauhan. Please go ahead. Please keep your question very precise, sir.
Yeah. Good evening, Minister. My compliments for the great initiatives Prime Minister and you in PMO are taking. My question is on the ease of doing business because Indian Merchants Chamber has to first do with business. So this year, the World Bank has not come out with this ease of doing business, but I just want to get a sense from you as to what do you think would be the, if at all World Bank was to come with the report, how many notches we will improve or will it be status quo? MK Chauhan, member of the Indian Merchants Chamber, Managing Committee and Chairman Ease of Legal Committee.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chauhan. This is a question which won't concern anybody in your position, but I don't think I'm actually prepared to answer that for the simple reason because we are still coming out of this fluid situation and trying to live up to this challenge. So depending on the moment of the decision making, the kind of situation prevailing at that precise moment, the kind of offer available, whatever is in the best interest of not only the nation but also in giving a push to the economic disadvantage that we might have suffered in the last few weeks would be done accordingly. But nevertheless, in the post-COVID economy of India, as I said, the goal of self-reliant India will not only be a stimulus or a call on the ground, but it would also boost our morals, both whether we are a part of the government or otherwise.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Prabodh Thakkar. Mr. Prabodh Thakkar. Sir, you have raised your hand, sir. Mr. Prabodh Thakkar. Yes, please ask your question.
Jitendra,
No, we are not able to hear you.
Jitendra Saab.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah,
How are
yes,
you?
sir.
Jitendra Saab, namaskar.
Namaskar. How are you, Prabhuji? We have not seen you
Thank you.
for long, so I think were you waiting for COVID to happen so that we could see each other through the TV
I
camera
know.
or this video camera?
I'm saving the energy so that we have a better audio. So I'm avoiding the stress on the communication. Sir, thank you very much for and thank you our president for facilitating this lovely conversation. There could not have been better chief guest than you. I remember our association in 14-15. Sir, quick question on Atmanirbhar Bharat. Two questions. One is it restricted only to manufacturing sector or also service industry? And the second question is there going to be any written formal policy on it? Because what we find it, despite of Atmanirbhar Bharat very loudly, pronounced by our Honorable Prime Minister, and I know he has a tremendous strong conviction on this, but down the below on bureaucratic level, there are challenges. So, for example, what we have experienced is even if the Indian company wins MNC, the tenders are cancelled or retendered. This is the experience. So, if you can kindly throw light on it, and thank you very much. Thank you very much.
No, I appreciate Promo, what you said. The Atmanirbhar, as I was saying right in the beginning, of course, there are a lot of confusion still because, and as a part of the confusion of the lack of comprehension of it, or maybe lack of communication of this concept, a number of questions arise, a number of misgivings also go around. But as I see it, Atmanirbhar Bharat is a much larger concept, a larger goal, and to put it very precisely, it would not only confine itself to manufacturing, it is self-reliance in a larger sense. But yes, the manufacturing instances come again and again because they are easy to exemplify. That केवल पुर्जे मंगवा के assemble नहीं करना है, पुर्जा भी अपना बनाना है. So it becomes easy to exemplify. But certainly, self-reliance would not be complete without the services also becoming vocal for local. Secondly, I agree with you that if in the course of time, if required, if written notifications are to be carried out, the government is open to that, because more important and the more cherished goal for the government is to make it workable rather than to become a prisoner of the rules. So the rules and the written notifications can accordingly be also contemplated.
Yes. Sir.
Thank you, and hope to see you soon.
Sir, you're mute. Okay, Mr. Saurabh Shah. Mr. Saurabh Shah, you have a question, you said?
Yes, sir. Namaste, Minister Ji, and thank you very much for giving us insight into this very dynamic topic. Sir, my question is on whether and how Atmanirbhar concept and the framework is going to provide a sustainable framework to meet India's growth aspiration. How will this get integrated, and what are the key indicators or the changes which we must put in place? Your comments on this, sir.
No, I agree with you. It's not easy to actually spell out all that, right? Also, for the reason that we are not going through a very ideal situation. The Prime Minister has placed before us this goal, and we say it at a time when we were actually feeling low for a number of reasons, not only in the economic front but even otherwise. So I think that is why it has been followed up with the national health digital policy also, because that also, if you don't have a health which is optimally suited to engage in economic activity, then the activity to follow would also not be easily workable, feasible. So as this is I agree with you that we have to overcome this challenge of the post-COVID constraints, and when we do so, then we would also get stabilized to move on further, both in the terms of growth and the other parameters. But right now, I think this concept serves as a huge booster at a time when otherwise we would have felt not so confident. So it's also, that is why I said it's a much larger goal than simply its physical forms. It's much more than its physical form.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for that small interaction also.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you. And
Sir, I'll request just 1 minute our Vice President, Mr. Joseph.
Yes, sir.
Tell me, Rajiv, first you tell me, where was the cake cut?
Cake is cut in IMC building.
Sorry?
I am sitting in the IMC building.
So you have got the cake in IMC building, but others are sitting at their respective places. So how would it be that?
Sir, we'll give it to them virtually.
No, that's not fair. That is cheating. So he is going to have the whole cake himself.
Sir, even please honor us by having it also.
But thank you very much for thank you very much for making me a part of it, because I always felt like a member of the IMC family. So it feels very good to be with you. I remember once I suddenly dropped in there in Mumbai on a Sunday when it was a holiday, and all of you were there. Just you. At my request came over to meet me, Rajiv and all others, and I felt quite guilty having disturbed them on a Sunday. So it feels like a family coming back in spite of coronas. But it also goes on to prove that corona or no corona, the show goes on. Thank you very much.
Look forward to the honor of having you again at the chamber once things open up.
Sure, I will. I look forward.
May I request Mr. Rakiwala to propose the vote of thanks, please?
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everybody, and good evening, special good evening to Dr. Jitendra Singh. So you have really given us a very, very inspiring and a very informed talk on Atmanirbhar. So IMC has seen economic change right from pre-independence to post-independence. And self-reliance is new to we businessmen and Indians as such. Ever since, I think, India became independent, we had our borders were closed and we had import substitution right through our economic history. And that import substitution to some extent did make us self-reliant. But the quality of goods produced, as you well know, during this economic period was very low. It's only in 1991 that you realize that the foreign exchange reserves were so low that we had to transport gold to Switzerland. And that was our economic state of affairs in that period. And we took the previous government took a bold step in opening up the economy, and the results are all there for us to see. Now we have seen in this government in the last 5 years, our foreign exchange reserve is at the all-time high, almost $550 billion. And we are now again talking of self-reliance. And I'm sure the components of self-reliance which our Prime Minister has put forward is not import substitution, but giving fuel to the economy to take it forward into a different space altogether. And this is a correct step which the government has taken to take this country at a different level. I think what proves the point overall is that we need a crisis to become more, to achieve progress. We had a crisis in 1991 and we saw what happened. Now we have a crisis of COVID and China put together, and we are responding so positively to it. And I'm sure only time will tell where India will be economically. So unless and until we are economically strong, we will have a far larger voice in the world, in the narrative of the world. So, Dr. Singh, thank you so much for being with us this evening and being like a family to IMC. I thank you very much for spending your valuable time with us, and to all the participants, over 150 participants who are present this evening. Thank you very much for with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shall go off? Let's go.
Thank you, Selvi. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good program, President.
Thanks. Thanks for being there.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Very nice.
Thanks.
Excellent. Any Namaskar.
So we are missing the celebration. साहब ने भी बोला केक साथ में खाना चाहिए था. आप लोग वहाँ बैठेंगे.
नहीं केक नहीं आप अगर वर्चुअल मत सबको एक केक भेज दो यार. नहीं खा सकते सबको एक भेज दो.
आपको दिखाया था ना.
दिखा देगा रे खाने से बता तो.
Thank you.
Man, bye.
Thank you, Ajay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, sir.
All right.
Thank you to everybody. Yeah, it's our foundation day. Yeah. We are all together.
हाँ यूजर क्या बोल रहे हैं?
Congratulations, President.
And I'm seeing you after a long time here.
You have not been coming on the state as this. You have not been coming on the state.
Rajiv, a fantastic program.
Thank you.
Very well.
Well done.
Thank you. This is about to you too. We are together.
I completely agree. Many congratulations, Rajiv.
Thanks, man.
And
Bye.
thank you to Sanjay
Rajiv.
Mehta and Team Delhi for the
Rajiv,
Rajaji, how are you?
important day, and it's an excellent program. I think at least for the attendees, we should give cupcakes. You can send that.
Raja, I don't eat cupcakes. Raja, I don't eat cupcakes. I do the free cake.
It requires Raj
Chota
Lakshmi to
chota
give that
bantona
suggestion, you know.
हमारे
Thank you, Raj Lakshmi. I am looking
It's
forward
a big
to it.
day, 114 Foundation Day.
I would like to thank
Maybe I'm just
Sanjay
joking.
Mehta.
No,
Congratulations.
I WhatsApp you just now a cupcake.
Thank you, Team Delhi and Sanjay Mehta for the cake.
Thanks. Okay. All the best. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.